Chapter 1. The Basics of the Puccini Method. The Puccini method is based on 5 convictions. Convictions that must form the basis for all designs in the Amsterdam public space. 1. The user benefits from simplicity and obviousness. The public space can be a spatial network within the city. It provides space for the hectic life of a city. The key to success is the satisfaction of the users. This means take the users into account, work together to come up with a good program of requirements that is the starting point for designing the space. Generally, street ornamentation should not stand out in attention. This often results in an over-the-top, ornate design that is unnecessarily demanding of the user's attention and in which connections with the surroundings are lacking. A functional, accessible, self-explanatory, timeless, and simple design with a precision of detail is usually the best solution. Even with simple materials, high quality can be achieved. Of course, exceptions can happen, but in a well-measured way and at the right place. Craft at every scale. Artistic design of streets, squares, and parks is an art-based discipline, not just in the production of concepts, but also in the technical realization and detailed design. The big and small scales are inseparable and both important. Detailed design and use of appropriate materials comes from a concept, expressing something about it and enhancing it. For good detail-oriented design, good knowledge is required. Currently, this knowledge is much more disintegrated and transmission of it is inadequate. Art restoration must take place and the dispersed knowledge be bound together, shared, and expounded. Artistic design of plans needs time. This should be taken into account while drafting plans. The investment is well worth the long-term investment, especially if a plan becomes better executed, better managed, and more cost-effective over time. Durability. A good plan is developed sustainability. For the establishment, we use as sustainable possible materials with a long, technical life cycle. Recycled materials are good to use and adapted to the long term. Consideration of the large and small scale is how we can plan the most climate-friendly. A plan is only sustainable if we can manage it. A street, square, or park can look beautiful after the first installment with sustainable materials and principles. But if we can't manage it, interventions must be made early when the sustainability of the establishment is not benefited. Sustainability is beneficial in terms of management. Requirements from management are important in the design of the plan. Management is from the start involved in the planning. For the definitive installation, it should be clear that a sustainable and future-proof management is possible. Best practices in innovation. These successful habits from the Amsterdam practice form the basis of the plans we develop. Amsterdam and Netherlands is world famous for its small elements, paving, our 30x30 bentonite pavement tiles and baked bricks. These small materials are very suitable for our wet, marshy ground, where large, heavier materials would sooner sink and come out crooked. An example is the unique IEP plantation in the city center, within the boundaries of the Grachtengordel protected UNESCO World Heritage Site. Taking account of these best practices means formulating a tradition and culture for the public space in Amsterdam. This stands in close harmony with the fact that a society always evolves and needs change and innovation. We need to always be looking for and balancing these two extremes. In more general terms, it is not possible beforehand to say which standardized element or which best practice needs to be adjusted or even innovation pursued. We view it each time and proceed pragmatically, not all at once. Any adjustments we make are made gradually, not all at once, and only as they seem to result in a measurable improvement. Collaborate. There are many specialists that are involved when it comes to designing a public space. Landscape architects, town planners, cultural historians, engineers, ecologists, administrators, and implementers. It is essential that these disciplines embrace the 5 principles in order to achieve successful outcomes. So it is helpful to keep working together throughout the whole process, from the initial idea to the completion. And most importantly, stay in communication with each other throughout the management phase. Here are some examples of streets designs that follow Puccini's method and some that don't. At the Wiebouwtes, the Puccini method, red and green were successfully applied. A neighborhood street designed according to the design principles of the Puccini method. Proper detailing of a 50 kilometers per h intersection. Detail of a good application of a 45x20 Falcon with rolling layer. A restless streetscape due to the application of too many non-color fast materials and objects. More than 3 main materials in a small neighborhood street quickly gives a cluttered appearance. Where different materials come together, good details are needed. Materials and furniture often converge on escape ramps, so well-designed ramps are important to avoid management problems. Chapter 2. The Puccini Method Floor Plan. The Mainline's floor map. The Puccini Method. Red floor map provides an overview of the materials employed in Amsterdam's sidewalks and roadways. The map on pages 17 represents an updated version of the Puccini Method floor map from 2014, rendering the previous edition obsolete. Within the updated floor map, we identify 6 distinct urban planning zones, each characterized by its unique material selection. These distinctions are based on factors such as the level of usage intensity and the historical development period of each zone. Our objective is to create a uniformly excellent public space across the entirety of Amsterdam. All roadways in 30 kilometers per h streets, except for Zone E Hevengebied, will be paved with baked materials. The familiar concrete paving stones, which are cheaper but visually dull and significantly impact the perception of public space, will no longer be used in the long term. This adjustment brings a significant improvement in quality, particularly for the post-war city, specifically Zuidoost, Neo-West, and parts of Noord. It also aligns better with the sustainability goals of the city of Amsterdam, particularly for the post-war city, specifically Zuidoost, Neo-West, and parts of Noord. It also aligns better with the sustainability goals of the city of Amsterdam. Baked materials have a much longer lifespan than concrete paving stones, allowing for longer reuse. For the sidewalks, we primarily utilize 30x30 concrete tiles. Although they are also made of concrete, these tiles have a much better appearance compared to the concrete paving stones used on the roadways, especially when a 30x30 tile with aggregate is applied. In many aspects, they are on par with baked materials while being cheaper and easier to replace in case of maintenance work. Zoning. Zone A, Historic Cores. In addition to the city center located between the open haven front and the single gracht, the dike lanes in Amsterdam Noord, Uitsloten, Uitsloterdiek, and the villages in rural Noord are also considered part of the historic cores. To align with the predominantly historical character of these areas, both the roadways and sidewalks are primarily paved with red bricks, cobblestones for the 30 kilometers per h streets and thicker bricks for the sidewalks. For roadways with a speed limit of 50 kilometers per h, black asphalt is used, while for the heavily visited UNESCO area and the medieval core, natural stone curbstones are chosen. For more detailed information about the center of Amsterdam, please refer to Chapter 10, Inrichting Centrum, Designing the Center. Zone B, 19th Century Belt, Garden Villages, and Northern IJ Waterfront. Zone B includes neighborhoods built between 1870 and 1919, characterized by urban planning with high housing densities and narrow streets. There is limited public space per resident, with clearly defined boundaries created by closed building blocks. The transition from public to private space is well marked, and although the street profiles are narrow, they are still easily navigable. Many of these areas gradually transform into urban environments due to their proximity to the city center. Given the typically busy use of public space, it is beneficial for the streets in the 19th century belt to have a sense of tranquility and quality. Garden Villages. Between approximately 1909 and 1930, the garden villages were constructed, particularly in Amsterdam Noord. They are now recognized as a nationally protected urban landscapes. These areas consist of workers' housing with a somewhat village-like urban structure, 1 to 2 floors in height, and ample greenery. They are characterized by the cohesion between the urban structure, buildings, public space, and greenery. The public space in the garden villages consists of narrow, rustic, mostly short 30 kilometers per h streets. which lead to small public green spaces and squares, creating a village-like atmosphere. The presence of public greenery emphasizes the urban structure and connects with the garden's green spaces. Northern IJ Waterfront. Over the past 20 years, Amsterdam has shifted its focus back to the IJ waterfront. A series of mixed residential and commercial areas have been developed, ranging from houthavens to IJburg. The transformation of industrial areas along the northern IJ waterfront is also in progress. Zone C, 1920s to 1940s Belt and post-war city, excluding garden villages in the north. Belt G 2040, excluding the garden villages in the north. These neighborhoods emerged between the two world wars and are celebrated for their monumental urban plan, designed by Berlage, featuring prominent vistas and serene, enchanting residential areas. Canals with lush green banks and majestic avenues constitute vital and distinctive main structures. The streets within the 2040 belt boast ample width, adorned with horizontally crafted brick facades inspired by the Amsterdam school architectural style. This architectural approach showcases intricate ornamentation, encompassing windows, doorways, roof cornices, and corner elements, all creatively utilizing brickwork. The street pattern incorporates widenings that are designed as green spaces and squares. The relatively narrow radial streets and continuation of the streets in the 19th century belt serve a highly functional purpose. Most squares feature lush green landscaping with sports and recreational facilities. Post-war city. The areas in the General Expansion Plan, AUP, were developed based on the fundamental principles of modern urban planning from the 1920s and 1930s, emphasizing light, air, and space. They exhibit a garden city character where living in a green environment is of exceptional quality. The architecture is often characterized by a pragmatic and modest style. The quality of the public space is largely determined by the presence of greenery. Wide green avenues with prominent rows of trees and expansive waterways form the structure of the public space. Zone D, Southern IJ, however. Over the past 20 years, Amsterdam has turned its attention back to the IJ River. A series of mixed-use residential and commercial areas have been developed, stretching from the houthavens to IJburg. The transformation of industrial areas along the northern IJ Overs is also well underway. In terms of materials, Zone D predominantly features red brick in keystone format for 30 km UR streets, while asphalt is used for 50 km UR streets with the exception of Haveneland. On Haveneland, granite cobblestones measuring 15 cm x 20 cm are used in the 30 km UR streets. Zone E, Harbor Area. Characteristic of the port area is industry and activity. The materials used are simple and robust. The 30 kilometers per H streets are constructed with gray, cobblestone-sized concrete paving stones or concrete, while the 50 kilometers per H streets have ribbons of asphalt or concrete. These materials are resistant to the heavy traffic in the port area. The sidewalks are paved with smooth, light gray concrete tiles measuring 30 by 30 centimeters. Zone F, Transformation Zone Havenspeed. If this zone transforms into an urban live work environment, the flooring materials from Zone B or C will apply. Now let's look at the different road material used in these different zones. Here are some pictures of the materials used on road lanes in the different zones. As you can see, black asphalt is used on 50 km/h roads on all zones, and on 30 km/h roads, something called a K-format klinkerkieger, or brick pavers laid in a herringbone pattern, are used on all zones except Zone E, the harbor area. In Zone E, concrete is also used in 50 km/h roads. For 30 km/h roads, concrete bricks are used. Here's a list of materials used for sidewalks. In Zone A, something called a dik-format klinker is used, which is a thicker, durable brick that's stronger than a normal brick. In Zone B, there are three materials, salsa-lash patterns used. 30 by 30 centimeter stone pavings, dik-format, which is a thicker brick used, and a linga format is used, which is a brick with longer dimensions. resembling the flow of a river. The stone pavings are standard, while the dik format is used under certain conditions. The linga format is used in the northern IJ waterfront. In Zone C and E, 30 by 30 centimeter, light gray concrete tiles are used. In Zone D, the linked format and the 30 by 30 stone pavings are used. In Zone F, 30 by 30 stone pavings or concrete tiles can be used. Dik format could be used, and the linga format could be used as well. Where they will be used will be determined later. Here's a list of materials used for parking and separate bicycle lanes. For parking, key format clinker elleboog is used, which are larger sized bricks that are durable. For the bicycle lanes, red asphalt is used. Here's the last column, materials used for curbstones. In Zone A, natural stone and something called a betonband. Amsterdam NR, 1, which means concrete curb Amsterdam number 1. On all other zones, the concrete curb is used. Lines. The continuous lines in the city are based on the HoodNet Auto, road network, and HoodNet rail network. Additionally, several important radial and cross connections have been added. These urban streets experience high traffic volumes and sometimes cross district boundaries. Working on a street within this network means approaching it from a spatial perspective and requiring close collaboration with adjacent management areas. Recognizability and coherence are key factors in this context. The floor plan also indicates the special places where there is room to apply different materials. In terms of materialization and design principles, projects have more design freedom in these areas. However, even in special places, the design must align with the principles of the Puccini method, a sustainable design with good detailing and attention to manageability. These places are selected based on urban planning, cultural, historical, and functional considerations. For example, the station island, including the Alzida, is considered one of the special places in the city. Materials and design principles here are different but still align with the general principles and beliefs of the Puccini method. That was chapters 1 and 2. More chapters might come soon.